Right now, though, let's talk to Roger Leighton, Chief Executive of Partnership Learning, an academy trust overseeing 12 different schools in London. Roger, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
First question, I suppose, is how easy will it be for schools to become ready by March the 8th to fully reopen?
I think it will be relatively straightforward. We've known that this date is coming for a long time, and almost everything that's going to be going on are things that we've already had in place in previous lockdowns or previous releases of lockdowns. So we're well prepared.
Well, that's good news. And I know you'll probably tell me that a lot of your schools have already been open throughout anyway, because they've been teaching a larger number of key workers' kids and a larger number of vulnerable kids anyway. Is there a problem with spacing? Is there a problem with room and the ability to get everybody back in?
There is a problem if you were trying to stick to social distancing. But we'd already adjusted for that in our risk assessments and come up with this concept of bubbles, right, in previous iterations of this. So it's not possible to socially distance with a class of 30 kids in a classroom.
Right.
So you have to accept the fact that that cannot be the case. And the control mechanism is that if somebody is found to have tested positive, then unfortunately the whole of that bubble has to go and isolate.
Right, okay.
Weeks. And that's the only approach.
And what is the instruction from government? Because not everything is as easily sort of understandable for everyone. I mean, is there going to be mandatory testing every couple of days, every day? How's that going to work?
Okay, so testing for pupils, for secondary age pupils, is going to be done at home.
Okay.
So there will be an initial test in school when they come back during that week of the 8th of March. But after that, kids will be given 2 tests a week to take home, to carry out at home, hopefully under the supervision of their parents. Right. And that's how that's going to work.
And you're getting those free of charge, presumably?
We're getting those free of charge, yes.
Right, okay. So, I mean, how do you know that the kids are taking the test, though?
Well, we won't.
Right, okay. Well, that's the first
We're relying on parents. We're relying on parents here, aren't we, to be responsible. And we'd hope that parents, in any case, would want to know whether their children were positive or negative. I mean, you know, there is self-interest here as well, isn't there?
Sure.
You know, if you've got your kid coming back home, you yourself might still be vulnerable. You might have, you know, people around you who could be vulnerable. You surely would want to know.
Yes.
So we will rely upon that.
Yeah, certainly I've heard some parents saying to me, you know, well, one of the people in the house is a bit vulnerable. They haven't yet had the vaccine. It might not be that they get the vaccine before Easter. So we might just keep the kids at home until the next term. What would be your reaction as a school boss to that?
Yeah, we can't accept that. From the 8th of March, all the usual attendance rules come back into place.
What do you mean? So you would find somebody who didn't send their kids to school?
In theory, that would be a possibility.
That's a bit of a sticky wicket, isn't it, after the year we've just had?
I'm saying in theory that would be the case, but certainly we would be putting all the usual checks and balances in place. So to be phone calls home in the first instance, possibly a home visit, all the things we'd normally do if children are not attending.
And where has this mask idea come from? Because I don't know for sure. You may be able to tell me. On the government website about the roadmap to recovery, it says that masks are only recommended for school children to wear in class. So where has it suddenly become mandatory?
Yeah, it's the ruling is saying that secondary age pupils should now wear masks in class where social distancing is not possible. Now, there will be some instances where it is possible, where class sizes are small enough for social distancing to be the case. And I think certainly in cases where you can have plenty of ventilation as well, that should mitigate against the need to wear masks. But other than that, my understanding is this is for a initial period of 3 or 4 weeks.
Yes, I mean, Boris Johnson last night at his briefing at 7 o'clock said that should only be till the end of this term, if you like. So presumably up until the Easter break. Go on.
So I can see the logic of, you know, it's an extra little protection in this early phase of everybody coming back all together at the same time. And it will give us a chance just to review how things have gone, but with an extra level layer of protection.
Yeah, but it's a big step, isn't it? I mean, for my own son, for example, 14 years of age, doesn't have a great deal of problems health-wise, but has got a bit of asthma. I don't think he's going to be terribly happy about wearing a mask for 8 hours a day.
Well, it's not 8 hours. It's not 8 hours a day. It's only going to be 5 hours maximum in most schools. Don't know what your school is doing. Your son's school is doing 8 hours.
Well, he enters the school. He enters the school around about 8:30 in the morning, right? And he's there until about 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's about 8 hours in my book.
All right. Okay. Look, you're right. It's not pleasant. None of us like it, do we? No,
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I do it when I have to do it, but I don't do it when I'm walking around in the street. I find it very claustrophobic. And I just think a lot of children, a lot of parents of children will not be happy. I mean, apart from anything else, wearing a mask for that length of time is going to cause all sorts of skin problems, rashes. It's really not ideal.
It's not ideal. And look, I think we're going to have to play this by ear and be sensible and use common sense in schools in certain situations, aren't we?
Yes. I mean, I'm pretty sure in his school they've got perspex screens between the desks. So presumably if you've got those, maybe you don't need a mask.
Look, and I don't think there are going to be inspectors coming in to check on the absolute 100% adherence to this. I think this is a sensible idea. It's sensible advice, and most schools will be attempting to implement it. But I think we should also use our common sense to make sure that it's not becoming too onerous.
Yes, exactly right. So would you say then that it's up to the individual schools or individual teachers, individual classrooms?
I think that it's in the main, it's going to be down to individual schools, but there is a guidance to be followed, and we do have to stick to health and safety rules and regulations. So we will be endeavouring to ensure that pupils wear masks at all times, but a bit of common sense can be allowed in this, I think.
I mean, because what they were doing before was sort of whipping them on and off about 7 times a day, coming out of a classroom, walking into a corridor, putting it on, going for lunch, taking it off, putting it back on again, going back to another classroom, taking it off. But, there was a lot of touching of the hand to the face, which is partly what you're not supposed to do. And yet that was kind of being encouraged. And if it was safe enough before not to wear a mask in class, why is it different now?
I think there's a lot of logic in what you've just said. So I think it is going to be down to schools to use their common sense in the way they implement this.
Yeah. But, I mean, can you foresee people saying, look, I really don't want my child to wear a mask? And if so, what do you say to the parent?
That will be very difficult. We would try to persuade the parent. We always try and talk things through and find a resolution that it is in everyone's best interest for your child to wear a mask. In the nth degree, I think we would probably, at the moment, during this 3 or 4 week period, would have to say that the child would have to remain at home.
Right.
Because
so you could order a child to stay home, but if the parent ordered the child to stay home, you would want to fine them.
The world isn't perfect, Mike.
I know. Listen, I'm not trying to catch you out, Roger. I'm a parent, so I want to know what the school situation is going to be like.
We're trying to adhere to the best advice and the best guidance that's been given to us.
But the trouble is, it keeps changing. It's not your fault, but the government's advice changes every bleeding week, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's why, again and again, I'll say we at school level, on the ground, will use our common sense. We will try and avoid conflict, keep everyone on side, and at least to get through to the Easter holiday. And hopefully when we come out the other side, we won't need to wear masks.
Yes. Now, I think the last time we spoke, were saying that you are doing some testing at the moment in your schools as far as you can. What sort of results are you seeing at the moment? Does it look as though your levels of positive tests are going down? Is it possible to say?
Yeah, very, very tiny numbers of positive tests. And they've been going down throughout the period that we've
so that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, good news.
Yeah, so that's sort of following the pattern, generally speaking, in the country then?
Absolutely.
Right.
And as part of the testing regime moving forward, staff in both primary and secondary schools will also have 2 lateral flow tests a week that they'll carry out at home.
Right.
So that will be extremely helpful as well. We get a very clear picture of any infections amongst the staff.
Right. And as far as you're aware, Roger, I mean, has the teaching unions had much of a role in these sort of decisions that have been made by Boris?
As far as I'm aware, unfortunately not. I'll say unfortunately because I know the unions are sometimes painted as enemies of school opening.
That's
But
only
in
one of
my
that's only one of them, I think.
Well, in my experience working with them, on the ground, they're not. They just do want to be involved in the discussions and take part
Mm.
in decisions that are made. Unfortunately, this government has tended not to involve the unions at an early stage, and that's caused the tensions that I think have emerged
Right.
over the last few months.
And when it all comes back on March the 8th, will that be the first time that you've probably had a sort of full house, as it were? Because I know some schools have had all the pupils back in, but not all of them have.
No, for many of our schools, it will be the first time we've had an absolute full house for many, many months.
Mm.
And we are genuinely looking forward to it. It's been incredibly difficult, incredibly challenging for everyone this last year.
Oh, it has. I mean, there are certainly some people who have said to me, maybe we should just forget about this year academically and kind of kick it off again in September. But I suppose if you can move through the Easter holidays and start up a proper term for the summer after the beginning of April, you'll be quite happy with that.
Oh, that will be superb. And that's going to be a key term for large numbers of kids, isn't it? Obviously, if you're doing exams, I know exams are going to be very different this year. But if you're doing exams and assessments, it's vital that you do as much as you can between now and the end of the year.
Yeah.
And look at those year sixes who will be looking forward to transferring to secondary. That summer term is a great term for them. It's their last term in primary when they celebrate their time in their primary phase and look forward to secondary. So it's a really important term for lots and lots of kids.
Absolutely right. And as far as the kind of the way that their work has been handled, will you start kind of more or less on the 8th of March with a view to saying, right, this is us, we're now back forever, we're now going to catch up with loads and loads of stuff? I mean, are you going to extend the day that's been mentioned?
We haven't got any clear plans to extend the day yet. I think the most important thing is going to be to get people back into their routines and give teachers a chance to really properly assess where kids are. Look, the truth is that the home learning in general has been incredibly effective, particularly in this last phase. So teachers do have a pretty clear picture of where their kids are. There will be gaps, there will be the need to catch up, but we're not going to knee-jerk into let's add an extra hour on the end of the day. For the moment, let's just get back into normalcy, and then we'll see what we need to do. And
what are you expecting from the kids themselves? Because for an awful lot of them, they'll be overexcited. They'll be, really pleased to see their friends that they maybe haven't seen for the best part of 8 weeks or so. Will you try and be a bit sort of lenient with them, if you know what I mean? I'm not asking for, carte blanche for them to do whatever they like and jump up and down on the desks. But, will you have to tell your staff to kind of give them a bit of a break, if you like?
I don't think we'll have to tell our staff to do that. Look, in our schools, our approach to discipline is that we're in this together. It's a joint enterprise in the best sense of the word. We're all working to the same goal, which is maximum achievement. We don't generally have to impose discipline in an iron rod sort of way. So I'm expecting everyone to just be so happy to be back together and seeing each other again that it's going to be a very pleasant atmosphere all around.
And what about sports? I mean, will you be able to go back to doing sport in the normal way, or will there be any restrictions on that?
Yeah, we're waiting for further guidance on that. The general direction of travel seems to be in society in general that outdoor activities are going to come on stream quicker than others. So we're hopeful that sports can get back into gear pretty quickly.
Well, as long as you don't do what the Six Nations do, where they socially distance from each other while they're singing the national anthem and then immediately start rucking and climbing all over each other when the game actually begins, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, anomalies are everywhere. Roger, listen, appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. Roger Leighton there, Chief Executive of Partnership Learning and Academy Trust, overseeing 12 different schools. Not going to be easy for schools, not going to be easy for parents either. And if you're a parent, I'd love to know what you think of this compulsory mask wearing scenario, because at the end of the day, I mean, do you really want your children forced to wear a mask for around 8 hours? Now, you might say what the kids doing in school for 8 hours, but it's effectively how long they're there. 8:30 till about 3:30 is 8 hours by anybody's reckoning, isn't it? So I would suggest that basically, if you want to kind of revolt against that, then it seems as though that might be a possibility. But I'd love to know what you're being told by your school and by your teachers, if your kids are there at the moment. Here's something from somebody who doesn't give a name, unfortunately. Mike, regarding masks, there is a huge section of the population now who are psychologically attached to their masks as they have been bombarded with terrifying adverts and signage for a year. I walked past a masked lady on a footpath last week. As we approached, she turned her back to us and clamped both hands firmly over her face. The psychological impact of mask wearing cannot be ignored. We need to slowly stop wearing them or they will be with us forever. R is the initial that's been put at the end of that. Yeah, I think that's true. There's no question that there's some people out there who are absolutely terrified, and largely because they've been told to be terrified. And I'm not saying don't be terrified, but really, do you really think that that is the way that we should be being treated in this country? 0344 499 1000. And if you've got children, surely they should be able to go to school without a mask on, shouldn't they?